My name's Miles Davis and I love motorcycles. I've been riding for over 40 years. I've been coaching off-road riding for over 20, including motocross, enduro and adventure. And as you guys know, riding bikes is so much fun. I was the National Marketing Manager for BMW Motorrad in Australia for over 10 years and very hands-on with BMW Safari, GS Experience and other GS events over these years. I've been involved with GS models and interacting with GS customers for decades. In this time, bikes have evolved massively, from the old R80 GS in my shed to this new 1250 here. The GS models have had switchable ABS since early 2000s and traction control and electronic suspension adjustment since 2008. The first water-cooled model in 2013 was a real game changer. Not only a whole new bike, but the tech went next level. Riding modes, off-road specific ABS and traction control, then came quick shift. Year by year the models get subtle but important upgrades and changes, so it's not always easy to understand the key features on each bike. In this video, I want to shed some light on how I think customers can get the best results of their bike on and off-road. I won't go into every detail. I'll focus on the key points so you can get the most out of your bike. The ABS system, or anti-lock brakes, on these bikes is amazing both on and off-road. It works by controlling brake pressure to reduce or limit skids and lockups. When you turn the ignition on, the ABS light will flash. Once you start riding, the light goes off, as you don't need a warning to show you the system is active. If the light is solid, ABS has been turned off. It works with sensors that measure wheel speed. When the system senses a lockup, brake pressure is reduced to avoid a loss of control. ABS can be tailored for on and off-road riding by selecting the appropriate riding mode. Rain, road and dynamic modes are for on-road riding. The ABS is calibrated for road conditions. It stops the brakes locking up the wheels. In 2016, road ABS was upgraded to ABS Pro, otherwise known as cornering ABS. It uses a lean angle sensor to reduce brake pressure as lean angle increases in emergency braking situations, creating extra stability and safety. When road riding, there is no need to switch off ABS. Simply select the road mode that you prefer for the conditions.
ABS off, doing about 80 kilometers an hour. ABS on, accelerating quite hard. I'm going to go both brakes as hard as I can, and the bike is rock solid. Did not even feel a wobble. ABS on, road mode, bitumen to dirt. Going to grab the brakes as hard as I can and let the bike do its thing, and I've lost no stability. The ABS measures the wheel speed and it transfers from bitumen to dirt. Brakes work at their maximum on the bitumen and do their best on the dirt, but you don't lose stability.
When riding off-road, select Enduro or Enduro Pro mode. The ABS allows a small amount of slip, so the brakes are more effective on low traction surfaces. Just make sure that you select the right mode for your experience off-road. Enduro Pro is best suited to expert off-road riders.
The Enduro ABS on these bikes works so good for descending. Coming down a hill like this with it in Enduro Pro, I can lock up the back wheel if I want to, but a less experienced rider is going to benefit from leaving it in Enduro mode because they won't get out of control from unnecessary lockups of the back brake. So just remember that. Descending in Enduro mode for novice and intermediate off-road riders is much easier, safer, but the advanced riders will love the fact they can lock up the back brake. And the front brake, it works so good with ABS on these bikes ever since 2013. No need to turn it off, ever.
If your bike doesn't have enduro modes, the ABS system is calibrated for on-road use. Novice and intermediate riders may still benefit by leaving that ABS system on when riding off-road, whereas more experienced off-road riders may benefit from turning it off, and they can use their experience to manage skids and keep the bike upright.
So this is an expert descent. Probably not many people like taking adventure bikes up or down this sort of stuff, but it can be done. Nice and slow. The brakes are working great with ABS on. And for this hill, I'll possibly turn traction control off for the way up, because it's pretty gnarly. Loose and rocky, ruts, lots of stuff to keep you occupied. Going up might be a handful, but we'll see how it goes. Definitely a novice rider. It's going to be tricky in Enduro or Enduro Pro, so the best off staying away from these hills, but if you can manage not locking up the rear brake, Enduro Pro is probably the best option. If you can't, then Enduro is going to be the best option.
It isn't necessary to turn ABS off if you've selected the correct riding mode for the conditions and your riding ability. Since 2013, the Enduro ABS system has worked so well that I never turn it off. From 2021 models, there's not even an option to turn ABS off, but you still have Enduro Pro, so there's no disadvantage at all. For riders on bikes without enduro modes, you may choose to turn ABS off at times while riding off-road. To turn ABS off, while stationary, press the ABS button for approximately 3 seconds until the ABS light turns solid. To turn ABS back on, while stationary, press the ABS button again for 3 seconds until the ABS light goes off. On some bikes, ABS will need to be deactivated each time you turn off the bike with the key. If the bike's turned off with the kill switch, the ABS will remain off the next time you start the bike. This is a handy little tip that helps people on the trails.
Traction control controls power to the rear wheel when using the throttle. On-road, it's very sensitive to protect you when you're riding on the bitumen. Off-road, it's calibrated for some slip, so you can still slide and maneuver the bike around. It works by measuring both the front and back wheel speeds, and depending on the mode you're in, it will control the right amount of slip to the back wheel to keep you in control.
When riding on the road, simply select the mode best suited to the conditions. Rain mode provides the most safety and intervention for slippery road conditions. Road mode provides a great package for all-round dry road riding. Dynamic Pro mode allows for slight movement of the rear wheel for performance riding. When riding off-road, simply select Enduro or Enduro Pro mode. The traction control is now calibrated for off-road surfaces and allows a certain degree of slip. In Enduro, the package is suitable for intermediate riders with less slip. In Enduro Pro, it's suited for more advanced off-roaders with more slip.
Beautiful hill like this. Pretty good in Enduro mode. You could run Enduro or Enduro Pro depending on your off-road preference and experience. In Enduro mode, the traction control is pretty suppressed. Doesn't really let you spin the wheel up much. And it doesn't really like it when the bike goes in the air at all. I'm just going to scroll to Enduro Pro on the fly. It's a little bit steeper, a little bit looser, and I don't want traction control to interrupt what I'm doing. It's still there, but it's not as restrictive. Really good for a hill like this.
In these modes, please be careful. The amount of slip on different surfaces can make the bike unstable very quickly. To get the most benefit out of traction control, you just need to select the right mode based on the surface you're riding.
Enduro Pro, traction control off, expert hill. It's a pretty wild ride. Definitely an expert hill. You don't want to be trying to go up one of these on a nice new shiny bike if you're not a experienced off-road rider. Very experienced, let's call it. That's pretty busy stuff. Always a relief to get up on those ones.
Traction control can be left activated. However, there are situations where some riders may choose to deactivate traction control, such as in sand, where you might need some wheel spin to take off and get moving. In deeper or sandy soft water crossings, where traction control might cut in and leave you stranded in a creek. Possibly when stuck on a hill and trying to take off again, or for the daredevils doing jumps or wheelies. Traction control can be turned off while riding by pressing the ASC traction control button for 1 second until the light goes solid. To turn traction control back on again, simply press the traction control button for another 1 second until the light goes off. Be aware, if you turn traction control off for a specific situation, don't forget to reactivate it again. Eco mode, which is new and only available from 2021 models onwards, gives extended fuel range by reducing acceleration and general performance for when you need maximum distance between fuel stops. Rain mode, for riding on wet, sealed road surfaces when grip can be lower. The ABS is standard, the traction control's at its most sensitive, the throttle feel is more gentle, and we suggest a suspension setting of soft. Road mode is for general dry on-road riding. For most riders, it's probably the mode they should use the most. The ABS is standard, traction control and throttle feel are standard, and you can set the suspension to your preference. On good quality, dry, twisty roads, a more experienced rider may find that in road mode, the traction control can intervene a little bit too much. In dynamic mode, the traction control allows for subtle amounts of slip, which allows the rear tyre to move, and the traction control will not intervene as early.
Dynamic Pro mode is the sportiest mode for road riding. It's really similar to dynamic mode, just a little bit more responsive in the throttle, which riders might appreciate. For off-road riding, there are two modes, Enduro and Enduro Pro. In these modes, ABS and traction control are calibrated for off-road surfaces so the bike can slide around a bit. Because of this, you need to be very careful. In Enduro mode, the throttle is less responsive and the ABS is active on both wheels. In Enduro Pro mode, the key difference is the rear brake is able to lock up the back wheel. ABS is deactivated, but you still have ABS on the front,
allowing for rear brake skids, which is a real benefit for advanced off-road riders.
Other differences are the throttle feel is a bit more responsive and the traction control is a little bit more open. On recent models with the TFT Dash, Enduro Pro mode is customizable. Riders have the ability to select throttle,
brakes and traction control to suit their riding style. In both of these modes, I recommend you find a suitable gravel area and have a bit of a play to see how the bike reacts. Now that we've talked about the different riding modes, I'm going to show you how to change them. You can do this stationary or whilst riding. Obviously, it's safer to do it stationary at the beginning, just so you have full concentration. Simply press the mode button on the right side of the handlebar. Keep pressing it till your preferred mode is highlighted, then you're ready to go. To change the mode while moving, it's the same process. You press the mode button multiple times till you get to your new mode. To confirm your new mode setting, you need to twist the throttle negatively beyond the 0 position. Once you do this, the mode changes immediately. No models come standard from the factory with the Pro modes available to be selected from the mode switch. For 2021 models and on, this is done from the TFT display. For previous models, the Pro plug is provided with the bike, usually stored clipped under the rider's seat. It's up to the rider to install it in the Enduro plug receptor that is located directly under the seat. The reason is for safety. Pro modes add freedom in exchange for safety features. Generally, riders without off-road riding experience will be satisfied without adding Enduro Pro, as most will not have the skill or experience to lock up the back brake at the right time. I always suggest riders use the modes without the Pro plug installed first to see how they suit your riding ability and style before you even consider fitting the Pro plug. To customize your modes, you use the multi-controller on the left side of your handlebar together with the menu button to bring up the correct screen. The multi-controller works like a scroll. It also has a little mouse click up and down.
Now that we've covered ABS and traction control and riding modes, hopefully you have a better understanding of how these systems work and the benefits they can offer you as a rider. Sometimes you hear stories about people telling you to turn ABS off. That's maybe the case on the earlier air-cooled bikes before 2013, but on these later model bikes, I never turn ABS off. Just select Enduro Pro for me, and then I'm selective about when I turn off traction control. More experienced riders may turn off traction control, less experienced riders will really benefit from leaving it on. So just be aware of the bike's settings, don't leave yourself exposed to be in the wrong setting at the wrong time and it ends up causing an issue. I really have a lot of faith in the technology on these bikes. The systems are quite amazing, they're there to support the rider. But if you don't have a lot of riding experience, on-road or off-road, especially off-road let's say, get out there and do some off-road rider training, because with your skills are at a higher level and you've got the great features that these bikes have, the overall package is amazing. It's really going to help you have fun, enjoy your riding and be a lot safer. I hope you really enjoyed the video. Maybe I'll see you out on the trail one day at a BMW off-road training course or even on a BMW safari. Happy trails.